Alrighty then. So I thought I'd make a quick video, or maybe a long video, we'll see how it goes, on what my design process was, what kind of a maniac I've been about this thing, and what kind of, how I went about designing it. I realized I was making videos showing it, and there was really no order to the chaos, which seems to be uh, my mode. There's chaos with no order. So anyway, I'm going to go into how I went about this. Now, I had an advantage when I started because I had an existing system. If you're starting from scratch, there's plenty of places like the plumbing supply I'm dealing with. They have a template. You can do your own dimensions, which would be the first half of what I'm going to explain. And then you give them your template and they'll design it for you. And I could have gone that route, but by the time I got to there, I realized, oh, well, this isn't that much harder now because I didn't have to take the time to figure out flow rate in gallons per minute, how many sprinkler heads can I have on a given system. I pretty much had a system existing and I'm just replacing it. So I already know I have about a 2 horsepower booster pump, and they tell me I can even go down to 1.5. I'm actually just going to stick with a 2 horsepower because I know that'll be enough pressure. And then anyway, let me get into my design method, which is really, I don't know, sort of organic. I just started doing stuff and then realized I could do more stuff, and the next thing I know, I had a bunch of stuff, and it sort of got organized somehow, which is a lot of how engineering goes. So I started by going out in my backyard, and my wife and I spent about 2-3 hours, and we just took all these different measurements, all different angles and whatever, and it was, she tolerated me. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, so here's what I got. I got all these measurements. So then what you do is you're going to take these and you're going to translate them to this nice grid paper, where everything can be scaled to close to exact measurements. And I got the grid paper off of Dirk's website, Dirk's Plumbing Supply. That's who I'm using. So in any case, so you take all your measurements here, you translate them onto this guy, and so, for example, I used a scale that was 1.5 foot per box. So that meant every way, this is 1.5 feet, this is 3 feet, 6 feet. So there's 10 per grid, per square, and 10 times 1.5, you got a 15-foot window here. Now, the reason I did that was because I'm using 3 different sprinkler heads in my design. I'm using a 25 roughly, 15 roughly, and a 12. And I say roughly, they'll get those distances, but at the tail end, you might be hitting 22.5 or something. So you have to have overlap. So what you do for your scale is you go, okay, I got 25-foot sprinkler head, I got a 1.5 foot per box, so I need that many squares with my trusty little this guy. I don't know what's this thing called. I don't even know, but I can take this now and I can set it to a 15-foot radius just by, let's see if I can do this with one hand. Oh, it was already on there. I guess I left it like that. So that would be a 15-foot arc if I was able to do that with one hand, which I can't. So anyway, but I can do it with 2 hands when I'm not holding this camera. And what you end up first with, you end up with your nice little template. Now, my recommendation is if you're going to do something similar, or even if you're not, what I did was I made one by hand. And so just as an example of how the scale works, this little area here is about 35 foot 7 inches, something, 37 foot 5 inches, something like that. So then I would just take 37.5, divide it by 1.5, and I would know I need 25 boxes from here to here to represent that distance. And then from here to here, for example, is, I don't know, what is it, 28 foot 7 inches. And I go, okay, now I drew a line for 25 boxes along that way, and I go, now I need 28.7. I draw it that way, and that's roughly, I don't know, whatever that comes out to. It's like 19 boxes roughly. So I draw 19 this way, and then so forth. And it took a while to draw it. I don't ever want to do that again because it wasn't fun, and I cursed a lot, and I was tired of it. It took me a couple nights of doing it because I didn't like doing it, but I scanned it into my computer. I kept the master copy. Now I have a PDF and I can just print it out. Problem is the grid's a little dull compared to the original. Can't really see these lines, but it's close enough. I can tell what I'm doing. So I made one of those. Then I took my little guy here, this guy again, and I created my outline of all my heads. So this took a little while too, and what I was doing was placing my heads where I thought I could get them the most efficiently and get everything I need covered. So this is all grass through here. I have a tree in the middle. This is a little bed, and you take your protractor, and that's a 15-foot head in this little zone right here. So you put it there, and so forth. You trace it around, and there's your 15-foot head. And now you note I have all this overlap. That's because in like this little area, you don't know that you're going to get great coverage. So you want to make sure you have overlap from this guy, a little overlap from that guy. And so I have 15s over here. Let me get that back up there, it's easier. I've got 15s here. These are a couple 12s are going to be their own zone. So like this is a zone. I'm going to have that connected to a valve. This is a zone. That'll be connected to its own valve. Another zone here that goes to its own valve and so forth. This is actually the side of my house going to my front yard, which is down in this area, which I'm not drawing, obviously not enough room. I have this on a different piece of paper. I did the exact same process and I just scaled it down. So this is the side yard now. And I put my heads in here, so now I've got that done. And the reason I have to do that is this is my front yard now. So if my garage is here, I have a nice long driveway, but it's wide, and I could put a valve box. I have a valve box somewhere over here in the front of my yard for the front zone over on this half that's not there. And I would have to run it under my driveway, which I'm not sure I would even have a clue how to start that. Easier to just go around the back of my house and do the side that way. So that's a pretty simple process. And these are 25s here. You can see this is a 10, so that would be like a 16, 6, 7. I've got one zone with 25. I'm using all gear driven, which just means it's not like a perfect spray. It's just going to spray back and forth like this across this area. And the same thing here. I got a nice 360 here. This is all grass up in here, and technically weeds right now. It'll be grass one day, I hope. And then this is going to be a zone over here and so forth. So anyway, that's that process. And once you have that done, I took some colored pencils and now I route my poly. So now all these different colors on here, and you've got, well, it's just in this little area, I've got orange, green, I've got a blue line. They're all different zones. Orange is going to the zone on the side. This blue would be this whole area. There's a little green line here that's going to be for this bed. We don't have much in it yet, but we're going to plant some stuff. That way we'll have little bubblers that can, just for, I don't know, flowers or whatever. This will be a little zone because I need smaller heads here. I want to try to keep my concrete from getting wet. So if you look at this little area here, I'm putting little 90-degree guys in. Why don't you focus, dude? Put little 90 degrees in here, this way and this way, this way and this way. So there's just like all these little details I wasn't ready for, and it's been a mania, but at like somewhere around 7 to 8 grand for somebody to do this, I'm getting away for probably somewhere around 15 to 2,000, and I'd rather have that 6 grand and a little bit of work. I'm not afraid of work. So you get the colored pencils, you draw your poly. I have this one line in here with the slashes. That's my water main coming from the front yard, coming from my secondary system. That'll go to the valve boxes. I was going to put a box here. I actually moved it up there. I think it's more efficient use of the poly. And because I'm using grid, basically, I'll be using a little more poly, but what that really does is it allows me to have an efficient way to know where everything is. And I can do that by, say, for example, if I have a point of reference, my concrete here, I'm a foot out. I always know I have this line as a foot out. I know it goes straight across that way, and I'll measure where once I trench it. The reason I want to do that is twofold or threefold. I can use I'll know exactly where I'm going to trench now. So I'll go out tomorrow and I'm going to measure where I'm going to put a bunch of flags down and everything. So when I rent my trencher, I can be as efficient and fast with it as possible. I'll know exactly where I want to trench. I can share lines because I'll have 2 lines running through this. I'll have 4 lines running through a trench here. So I don't know, a couple here. I'll have 2 this way. And it allows me to trench less, but I also can use all this now with my scale to calculate how much poly I need. So I know I have, say, for example, that's 50 foot roughly. So I'll need 100 foot just for 2 lines going here. That's about another 40 or 30 feet there. So I need another 30. So I haven't done the math on that yet, and I did the same thing for my side yard. So it's a process, and part of it is a mania. I'm just a maniac when it comes to this stuff. I love a challenge, I guess, and I say I don't care and I don't want to know this much about irrigation, but the further I get into it, the more I'm enjoying it. And I think it's partially because I know I'm getting closer to being done and having my life back. I can go back to doing whatever it is I do. But that's pretty much my video. Drinking whiskey is probably a big part of that. But anyway, that's my video, and I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching.